The Toyota Yaris is now a hybrid-only range, and it's one of Australia's most affordable petrol-electric cars. So, in this review, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about it, the model range, pricing and specs, and also what you can consider as the best alternatives to this car. So stick around. If you've already subscribed, thanks so much. If you haven't, please do. It does help a lot. Let's get to it, shall we? In 2024, Toyota Australia decided to axe the petrol versions of the Yaris hatchback, which were the most affordable ones, and it was already a pretty expensive lineup. But now there are 3 different versions available with hybrid powertrain technology, or HEV as the brand now badges its vehicles. And the entry-level version is still relatively affordable by modern standards. $28,500 for that entry-level Ascent Sport. It looks a bit basic though, and it gets a few things that you might not be happy with, like halogen lights. It's also got steel wheels with plastic covers. On the inside, it's got cloth trim, an 8-inch touchscreen media system with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but it's pretty basic, I've got to say. A bit of a fleet special, that one. If you step up to the SX grade, that's where you're getting a few extra features for your $3,500. 15-inch alloy wheels, LED headlights and tail lights, rear privacy glass. You've also got sat-nav with cloud-based updates, a 7-inch digital instrument cluster, and a leather accented steering wheel and shifter. On that base model, you get a plastic one. And this is the top spec version, the ZR, and it does have a bit more wow factor to it. And it is very much into Corolla hybrid territory when it comes to the pricing. But you are getting a few extra features in this high grade version. Get the two-tone black roof, get a black spoiler, black mirror caps. You've got these 16-inch alloy wheels, which are a bit small looking still. And on the inside, you're getting a more wow factor interior than the entry-level versions. With red dash and door inserts, you've got a head-up display, and it looks and feels a bit more special than the other versions in this lineup. But I've got some alternatives that might suit your needs and your tastes a little bit more. Let's talk about them now. Okay, so you're looking for a small hatchback that's fuel efficient. I think you should definitely be putting the Suzuki Swift Hybrid on your list. That hybrid model is very, very fuel efficient in real world driving and as part of the official claim number. And it's a beautiful thing to drive, really likable, really livable, a bit basic, and it is missing some of the safety stuff that you might want in a modern day car. It did have a really, really poor safety rating, but that doesn't stop me from recommending it because it's still safer than buying a second-hand car in most instances, and it's really bloody good to drive. And if you're thinking, well, I'm ready for electrification, why not go the full electric car experience? Well, you can now for less than $30,000 with the BYD Dolphin. The entry-level essential version might have less power and torque and a lower battery range of just 340 Ks compared to some of the other models in the lineup, but at $29,990, it is a big wow factor car for that price alone. And it could be a really good choice if you're thinking, I just want to drive in the city anyway, maybe I'll just get an EV. The price is right for that one, for sure. And finally, if price is everything to you, I really think you should go and check out the Skoda Fabia Select. The entry-level version is about $32,000 drive away. You're getting 7 years of warranty. You're getting a stylish and comfortable and easy to live with small hatchback. And I think it could be a really good choice if you are considering a small, fuel-efficient car. Even though it's not a hybrid, it has a turbo petrol engine that is really, really efficient. Would you choose any of those or something else? Let me know in the comments. The Yaris design hasn't changed all that much over the 5 or so years it's been on sale, except for the fact that now you get HEV badges on the sides and the back of the car, and you just get a standard Toyota badge rather than the blue backed badge, which you used to get. And it's a tiny, tiny little car, less than 4 meters in length, so definitely urban friendly, but maybe not as parent friendly as some other cars in this class. I'm going to show you why right now, because this door, well, just look, doesn't go very far open. So it can mean if you are trying to load a kiddo in the back, you won't be able to do it easily or comfortably. But all models do get the keyless entry and push button start. And let's have a look in the boot and see what kind of space we are dealing with here. Not a whole lot of space in there. You'll see the official number on your screen, but this is in the worst configuration right now for space because it's got the false floor in place. And if you take that out, you've got heaps more room. And underneath, there's also a space saver spare wheel, which is a bonus in my mind. You do get little shopping bag hooks on the side and a light on that side. So practical enough for a small family with one kid maybe, but don't go thinking you'll be able to use this as an alternative to a Kia Carnival. Okay, so this is your point of view perspective of the Yaris, and remember, this is the high grade version, so it's got the most interesting interior of the lot. Let me show you some of the interesting bits. Those seats, yeah, they are peculiarly finished. I think they look really cool though, compared to a more basic trim in some other versions of the Yaris that you might get. You've got this red piping that runs up onto the dashboard as well, and I think that it feels its age a little bit in a few different ways. Like, there's no wireless phone charger in here. There's plenty of different storage trays, but no sort of really good closable storage. So you've got a storage tray there, one up here, one over there, and down between the seats, yeah, you've got some cup holders, but there's an uncovered center little box there as well. So all those things make it feel just a little bit cheaper than some of the other vehicles that you might be considering at this kind of money. But as I said, this is the high grade version, so it gets the standard 7-inch digital instrument cluster for the driver, has a bit of configurability to it so you can adjust some elements of what's on screen. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but you'll be used to it after a couple of days in my mind. And up above, you'll see there, you've got a head-up display in this high-grade version. Sorry if the car makes a bit of noise, but I'm keeping the aircon on because it's 35 degrees outside. And yes, this is maybe the other big, small disappointment, the 8-inch touchscreen media system, which has been updated recently, but it's certainly not class leading in terms of the size and usability of the screen. I mean, it's a fine screen if you're just going to be like me and use wireless Apple CarPlay, as is the case right now. But if you go into the Toyota screen, yeah, you do get sat-nav in this particular grade, which is nice to see, and it's got cloud-based connectivity as well. And there's a couple of other menus down the side here, but honestly, it's a pretty basic menu setup. You can go and customize a few things through this screen if you want to keep an eye on your trip computer and so forth. Someone's been driving very efficiently. And yes, it's got the usual things that you would expect in terms of the usability, but it does have a few other quirks when it comes to the controls for this car. So say you're listening to the radio and you want to adjust the sound, so the quality of the sound or the bass and treble and so forth, you don't go through menus and so forth in the settings, which you'd probably think, especially when you go down here and there's a sound menu. No, that's not where you'd go. You'd go back to the music bit, and then you need to go to these 3 little dots, and then you can adjust things. It's just annoying, to me anyway. Maybe it won't be to you. All right, so yes, pretty decent screen. Thankfully, you've got a volume knob, and the controls down here are simpler than some other models that you might be coming across at this price point. So you've got a fan dial, you've got a climate dial as well, and a section of buttons down there, but you've also got some pretty unpleasant blanks down here too. So there's no seat heating in this car. That's probably where they'd go, but hey, you tell me if you think seat heating is a deal breaker or not. Now, up above, you've got a couple of vanity mirrors. Now, that's illuminated. It's doing a weird flickery thing for some reason in this particular car. You've got your SOS call button because this car does have connected services, so that is handy. And you've got a standard manual flicky mirror, which is not great when you're spending 35-ish plus on road costs, in my opinion. Right, let's check out the backseat space and see what it's like. I think it'd be pretty fair to say that this is not as good as some of the other cars that you could think about for this kind of money. In terms of the backseat space, look at my knees, hard up against the seat in front of me, which is set for my driving position at 182 centimeters. At least I've got decent foot wiggle room, but there's nothing really handy back here. Like, there's no directional vents or charging options. You've got just one mat pocket on the seat back over there. There are bottle holders in the doors, but just look at these very scratchy, basic rear trims. Might be handy if you do have kids and they've got grubby fingers all the time. Mine does, but yeah, just not the most pleasant thing for an adult to experience. And you've got ISOFIX points in the window seats, which is handy, and 3 top tethers as well, but there is no flip down armrest here, which is maybe a little bit, again, disappointing. Oh, forgot to show you what the headroom is like. As you can see, it's a little tight as well. Anyone taller than 6'2" will be pretty tight back here, I would say. There are grab handles up here though, and you do have a light in the middle, so it should be able to shine a decent amount of light on proceedings at night time. So I think it's okay, but it's certainly not brilliant. All Toyota Yaris models feature a 1.5 litre 3-cylinder hybrid powertrain with pretty meagre outputs. The total system output is 85 kilowatts. The engine is good for 67 kilowatts and 120 newton meters, and it's got an electric motor integrated into the whole system, which is pretty punchy as well. But as I said, total system output 85 kilowatts. It's got a small lithium-ion battery pack, and it's mated to a continuously variable transmission. 0 to 100, well, you're not going to threaten any records with this one, 10.2 seconds, but it is relatively light, which is good for the efficiency factor. Let's go for a drive. We'll get to the efficiency shortly. Okay, so what's the Yaris like to drive? Well, if you're the sort of person who appreciates the symphony of a good sewing machine or overlocker, I think you will really get to jibe with this car, because it does have quite a bit of noise intrusion from that 3-cylinder engine coming into the cabin in a mix of different scenarios. Yeah, it's not the most refined little car, and if you are sensitive to things being very loud in a car, you won't like this car, I don't think, because, well, you can hear lots of road noise, lots of wind noise, lots of engine noise, and lots of other noise from outside the car as well. So if you're in a tunnel and you go past a truck, I just heard that truck pretty loudly in my ears. Yeah, it's just not overly cocoon-like, let's say, in terms of the drive experience. You do have to be okay with a bit of noise coming into the cabin. Anyway, we'll get past the noise factor, because otherwise the drive experience here is pretty good, I have to say. So this 1.5 litre 3-cylinder petrol hybrid system, it gets along pretty well. It's not necessarily a firecracker, as the power output combined suggests. It's good enough, I would say, for a lot of people's needs, and for those who just drive in the city, it's going to be absolutely adequate for that, because when you do put your foot down, if you're in the normal drive mode, you can just get as much grunt as that, and it will boogie pretty quickly. You just have to be okay with it, maybe taking a second or two for everything to combobulate and then get moving. But I'm really impressed with the way that it drives in terms of the powertrain, except for the noise, and it will sort of shuffle between EV driving mode and hybrid driving modes without you having to think about it, although you can press the button down here and put it into EV and it will prioritize electric driving. It's not the biggest battery pack, so it won't last forever when it comes to the driving in that instance. But if the battery depletes to the point where it can't run the car using full EV anymore, it won't allow you to press that button, or it will just kick you back into the hybrid mode. And in hybrid mode, there's plenty of grunt. I think this is a really punchy little powertrain, and generally it's going to suit a lot of people's needs. You don't really need much more than what this has to offer for the size of the car. Part of that comes down to the fact that it's very light, and thankfully that doesn't impact the way that it behaves itself in terms of the suspension or the steering or the handling of the car. It just feels bigger than it actually is in terms of the drive experience, and I like that about it. And I don't mean bigger in a cumbersome way, I mean just a bit more planted and sophisticated in terms of its driving, considering it is less than 4 meters long. It's a very small car. Now there's also a B mode for this car, so if you shift the gear selector all the way down to B, then you will be in the most efficient driving mode. So it's designed to basically help get as much battery pack replenished as possible. So it will lean more heavily on the regen braking system and use the engine more as a generator to try and feed some power to the battery as well. And it honestly is pretty good in terms of the way that it behaves itself in that mode. And the regen braking, yep, it's good too. So if I take my foot off the throttle, it will feel like it's slowing itself down, but it's not doing it too assertively, and it's not like single pedal driving in an EV. And another big plus for this car is that while it does have the speed sign recognition system, it doesn't beep and bong at you to tell you that the speed has changed, or it thinks the speed has changed. And there's no driver monitoring camera either. So both of those things make it easier to live with. There's simple controls to turn off the lane keeping assistance if you don't want it on. And I found that it's very easy to live with in terms of the integration of the safety stuff. Right, what about fuel consumption? So, the official combined cycle figure for the Yaris models is on your screen now. That is mind-blowingly low, 3.3 litres per 100 Ks. And if you can achieve that, I'm sure you'll be bloody stoked. It is possible. If you do a lot of urban stop-start driving in B mode, in eco mode, you could see in the twos in my experience. It's super duper efficient. I haven't been out to set any efficiency records with this drive though, just been trying to replicate what you might do with your car, stop start, bit of urban, bit of highway, bit of freeway, and I've achieved just under 4 litres per 100 Ks, which I think is exceptionally good for a car like this. And it's part of the reason you buy it, right? And just go back to that fuel efficiency consideration. So if you were just doing urban stop-start driving, there's a really good chance, because of the fuel tank capacity size, that you'll get more than 1,000 kilometers out of a tank if you can achieve the sort of efficiency that is claimed in urban driving for this car, which is 3 litres per 100 Ks. So very, very good in that regard, and it doesn't have the thirst for the expensive petrol either. Another big plus. The Toyota Yaris achieved the maximum 5-star ANCAP safety rating in 2020, and it still has that score, but you need to keep in mind that you need to spend more to get more with this car. So as standard, all grades get autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian and daytime cyclist detection. There's also lane keeping assistance, and adaptive cruise control is standard too. And in the base model car, you get just a reversing camera. If you choose the SX grade, you get front and rear parking sensors as well, and they have an auto braking system, so that should stop you from bumping into things. And in the high grade version, you're getting blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert, which I think are really, really welcome inclusions for a car like this. And some other alternatives do have them as standard across the range, but you do have to pay the most to get them in this particular car. Now, another thing you need to keep in mind with this car is there are 7 airbags fitted, dual front side, a front center airbag to prevent head clashes if you're in a T-bone accident, and curtain coverage for both rows of seats too. Toyota Australia offers a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty for its model range, and if you service your car on time, whether it's with Toyota or not, you can get an extra 2 years of warranty for the powertrain. But if you do service with Toyota and you buy a hybrid like this one, well, you can get up to 10 years of powertrain coverage for the hybrid components. So makes sense to go back to your Toyota dealership and service it there. And hey, at the price that's being asked for the first 5 services, you'd be silly not to. It's very, very cheap to maintain this car. And yeah, you do have to pay extra for roadside assist, but it's only going to be about an extra $100 per year if you think you'll need it. But honestly, wow, stacks up well from the ownership perspective. So there you have it. The Toyota Yaris is one of the best little hatchbacks that you can buy. It's super duper fuel efficient, extremely easy to drive and live with. And although it is feeling a little bit dated in a few different ways, it still makes a pretty strong statement for itself in this high grade version. But would you choose this or one of the alternatives I mentioned earlier? I'd love to know. Please hit me up in the comments. And if you haven't already, subscribe. It does help a lot. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you when I see you.